So the difference is, one, we're not putting a whole bunch of consultants trampling through your ORs, right? We are literally pulling this and going back with our data solutions team and working through that offsite. So we're not taking up space in your ORs. We're not trying to sell you a tracking system, and we're not trying to sell you a software system. We are working within your current capacities of your tracking system.
Rising above the buzz of ultrasonic cleaners and the clanking of stainless steel are the ideas and voices that are changing an industry. You're listening to the Beyond Clean podcast, the central nexus for the people, processes, and products that are improving our sterile processing world. Each week, we speak with frontline technicians, CEOs, engineers, and entrepreneurs with a common goal to help you fight dirty. Every instrument, every time. Whether you're tuning in for education or inspiration, we're glad you did. Now, turn on those washers and turn up the volume. It's time to go beyond clean.
On this Vendor Spotlight, we speak with MarBeth Petty, Instrument Implementation Manager with Symmetry Surgical, and we're going to be highlighting data integrity, cleaning it up, and creating efficiencies through the Instrument Inventory Solutions program at Symmetry Surgical. And MarBeth is going to be sharing with us a success story that she's been having at Memorial Hermann and a white paper that is outlining those results. We're going to review that in our conversation today, and it's going to be a conversation about data and achieving operational efficiencies that ultimately lead to a greater availability of sets and significant cost savings for your organization. We're going to be right back after a short break with MarBeth Petty, Instrument Implementation Manager at Symmetry Surgical.
From 17 Studios, you're listening to Beyond Clean, the global voice of sterile processing.
Joining us now is MarBeth Petty, Instrument Implementation Manager with Symmetry Surgical. And the one thing I'm really excited to do today, MarBeth, is talk about a real-world example of the work that you're doing with Symmetry Surgical. And we're going to be highlighting some of the solutions in conjunction with that as well. So welcome to the Beyond Clean podcast.
Justin, thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate it.
Well, today we're going to be talking again about empowering sterile processing departments, and it's going to be all centered around data and improving efficiencies. And you have a lot of experience in that, and that's really where I want to start. I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about your background, and even if you want to tell us what you're doing right now to tee up the conversation about the work that you're doing or the project that you're on currently.
Perfect. Thank you so much. The last 8 years, I have been working with the hospital system to work through their instrument departments and make improvements. One of the things we realized early on is that missing instruments were, a big problem within sterile processing departments. But if you run the missing instrument report, it can be very inaccurate because that's not necessarily what is in your instrument sets, which has kind of led to the project of looking at the instrument data.
That's great. And, I think we probably should tell everybody a little bit more about Symmetry Surgical as well, because you're going to talk to us about the data and specifically some of the solutions you have for managing that data in the context of this conversation as well. So I'm pretty sure most of the people listening are familiar with Symmetry, but just for their benefit, if they're not.
Symmetry Surgical is a leading healthcare technology and solutions provider of high-quality surgical instrumentation. And it's up to the customer. If they tell us they want to look at us 80% and above threshold, we'll run the reports at an 80% and above. If they say they want to go as low as 70%, we'll start at 70. If they want to, start at 90, we'll start at 90. So it's truly up to the customer at what threshold they want to start at. The reports are phenomenal. I have to tell you, they will walk you through a basic overall summary of a paired match. And then you get a secondary report that will show you the details. And it's very easy to read. You can go into your OR with this report and you won't even have to open the sets necessarily and have the conversations, which again goes back to that labor shortage we were talking about. If you don't have to take these in and open the sets, guess what? Now your SPD doesn't have to reprocess those sets again.
Yeah, I love the part about getting some intelligent insights or actionable insights that can really promote sterile processing to the operating room as being a valued resource with some strategic initiatives in play. We've talked a lot on the podcast about how do we get information to leaders that allows them to engage their colleagues in the various other departments, that helps them show the value that they can bring. Because one thing we know is a lot of the leaders have the knowledge, but what they may not have time to do is put together information to share it or present it in a certain way, or they might not be, that may just not be one of their skill sets. So like just formatting actionable information that speaks to something that they already know in their heart that's just very difficult to present is such an added benefit as we continue to just, drive the leadership in sterile processing upward in terms of value offering within the organization. I just think that's so critical. I know we've got a white paper on this that we're going to be making available as bonus content on our smartphone app, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we're wrapping up. But I think the key thing, and the reason I mention that now, is that the white paper is highlighting the impact or the results of this effort. You kind of put that out there and say, this is what really happened as a result of this. I just wanted to pause and say, we're going to be talking about a lot of good things here in the next couple of minutes, but a white paper is really going to spell it out, and people can download that off the smartphone app, or obviously they're going to be able to reach out to you directly as well at Symmetry Surgical. So give me the meat and potatoes of the final results here of the impact that this had for Memorial Hermann.
Absolutely. So it was very exciting results. We were able to take the count sheet commander and then the set standardization. And then we moved on to a set optimization program where we worked with the different service lines to reduce the number of instruments that were in the set. We went service line to service line. It did take us a little while, but we were able to remove over 1,000 instruments from the sets and figures in the 6 figures. So we are actually moving on and doing all of the other sites in the system. And each one of them, we've completed 4 so far. And each one of them is showing cost savings in the 6 figures amount. So our goal is to finish the rest of the sites by the end of the year.
Well, I'll tell you, I mentioned supply chain and the value that might come to them, but this kind of savings, especially across an entire system, if you're getting 6 figures a site, there's some 10 plus hospital systems out there, that starts to add up to a figure above $1 million. And, that's the kind of significant savings that healthcare organizations have been looking for. I mean, they've always been looking for it, but the pandemic and the impacts of the cancellation of procedures at the beginning of COVID really put some major emphasis on this. And one of the nice things I think about the way that you're talking about this particular project is it's not something that they then have to find bandwidth necessarily to do. You can take the data they already have and then find these opportunities and start to move forward with that and achieve these kinds of savings. And, obviously you're going to be able to provide support as outlined in this white paper. MarBeth, I want to congratulate you because I know you've been working some long hours. I know you've really been hard at work on this project, and it's obviously having a major impact for your customer. And is there anything you want to add before we kind of wrap up about the project, or just any tidbits that we might have left out in the conversation?
Sure. I'm absolutely passionate about the Data Solutions Project. I think as a organization in healthcare across the United States, we do not use the tools through our tracking systems and the data to the capacity that they can be used. To give you an example, I was working with a healthcare agency a couple weeks ago, and I literally just took their count sheet commander data, and they were talking about how they were redoing all their vascular sets. So I was able to manipulate the data and show them all of their vascular sets and then sort to show them all of their common items so they could build one vascular set based on the common items and which sets we're currently using those common items. So again, it's using the tools and the data that we have at hand and being able to maximize their potential and bring efficiencies about to the departments. So, and that's where Symmetry Surgical can really impact, because we're not a standardized format for our count sheet commander and our set IQ. While we are giving you a product and a deliverable, we're also acting as consultants and working with you to how to maximize your efficiencies and to use the data in ways that will impact your healthcare organization within those four walls.
Yeah, it's one thing to be able to package the data and show the information, but it's another thing to have the kind of experience of having a successful project, especially on a large scale like this. You've run into lots of different scenarios. So being able to share that experience on how to use the data or what you might see from your perspective on having done several of these or so many of these is also incredibly valuable. I do want to remind everybody we have this white paper available for download on the smartphone app for iPhone or Android. You can also call Symmetry Surgical at 800-251-3000 or visit the website symmetrysurgical.com/instrument-inventory-solutions, and you can submit some information there, and someone from the Symmetry team will be in touch. MarBeth, you did a fantastic job with this interview. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to be here.
That was MarBeth Petty, Instrument Implementation Manager with Symmetry Surgical, and we were outlining the Instrument Inventory Solutions program at Symmetry Surgical and a white paper talking about a success story that they've had at Memorial Hermann. And so a number of takeaways here regarding the Count Sheet Commander and the Set IQ solutions, but really it's all about getting the data right and finding those efficiencies. And honestly, the biggest takeaway for me, just in these times financially, what we've been going through, 6 figures in savings within the first year at a single campus. And so as that repeats out over other customers, I mean, this is an area that is going to help hospitals be far more fiscally sound if you can get 6-figure savings. Obviously, the unnecessary reprocessing of instrument sets that are being opened for, sometimes no good reason, when it really should be a peel pack, consulting on that end and sharing that experience and some of the process improvements, I think, can be a huge help as well, and really empowering the supervisors, managers, directors, but especially technicians and new technicians that are coming into the industry to do a better job and become more capable and self-sufficient sooner, because the data is good and the variability is lower, and set availability, so critical. I do want to remind everybody that you can get the bonus content if you download the smartphone app for iPhone or Android, and that bonus content is the white paper with all the details of the success that we spoke with MarBeth that she's had at Memorial Hermann. You can contact Symmetry Surgical directly by phone, 800-251-3000 if you'd like to learn more, or simply go to their website, symmetrysurgical.com/instrument-inventory-solutions, and there you can submit your information and someone from the Symmetry team will be in touch. That's going to do it for this vendor spotlight, but as a reminder, you can help support Beyond Clean by subscribing on Apple, Amazon, or Google Podcasts. You can also find us on Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or simply search for Beyond Clean on your favorite podcast application. We also have bonus content like the white paper featured in this episode, but to get it, you've got to download the smartphone app for iPhone or Android. And I would remind you that while you're there downloading, we would really appreciate a rating and review because your feedback is important to the show. If you have any topics that you'd like us to cover on a future episode, or if you've got a recommendation for a guest, just send an email to info@beyondclean.net. Thank you for listening to this vendor spotlight on Beyond Clean.